Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi to all viewers out there. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Mr. Safwan, and I'm a Form 6 English teacher from SMK Putra Kangar Perlis. Okay, so today I'm going to share with you guys some tips on how to answer Muet writing paper. Okay, I'm sure a lot of Muet test takers out there, maybe you have some difficulties in answering Muet writing papers. Don't worry. I'll be sharing a step-by-step guide on how to answer both task 1 and task 2. Okay, so now let's look at the table of content of our sharing session today. So first of all, we are going to look at the overview of writing paper. And then we are going to look at the competency criteria according to Muet bands. So this is basically how well students are expected to perform according to different bands. Okay, and then we are going to look at the writing components. And lastly, perhaps the most important part of our sharing session today, we are going to look at the step-by-step guide in answering guided writing and extended essay. Okay. Alright, so now let's look at the overview of writing paper. So the duration of the writing paper is 75 minutes in total. So the time allocation is 25 minutes for task 1 and 50 minutes for task 2. So please remember around 5 minutes for you to check your essay. So this is very important for you to check for any grammar error or your language or any missing information. And then the level of response according to CEFR for task 1, it ranges from A2 to C1, and for task 2, it is in between B1 to C1. All right, so now let's look at the competency criteria according to Muet bands. Yeah, so this is basically the expectation of what the candidate should produce if you want to be in certain bands. Okay, so for band 5 plus, band 5 plus and band 5, we consider them as proficient user. Okay, for band 5 plus, the candidates are expected to write complex text clearly and smoothly with a high degree of accuracy in an appropriate and effective style. And the candidates are also expected to use structure in a logical and orderly manner that helps readers find significant points. So basically, band 5 plus, for band 5 plus candidates, you are expected to produce a near perfect essay. So if the examiners are super impressed with your essays, then perhaps you'll be in band 5 plus. Okay, band 5. So for band 5, the candidates can write complex text clearly and smoothly with a good degree of accuracy. So it is maybe slightly less than band 5 plus, but still the level of accuracy is, should also be high. Okay, and the candidates for band 5, they are expected to use structure well. Okay. As for band 4.0 and band 4.5, these are the independent users. So the candidates can write formal or informal text clearly and in detail on a range of subjects with clear differences between formal and informal language, and sometimes with occasional less appropriate expressions. Okay, so this is in between band 4.0 and band 4.5. So the candidates who are in band 3.0 and band 3.5, these are also independent users. Perhaps this is where most of the candidates will fall, the average candidates. Yeah. So the candidates who falls in band 3.0 and band 3.5, they should be able to write straightforward texts that are understandable on familiar topics, but sometimes with unclear expressions and inconsistencies. Okay, as for band 2.0 and 2.5, these are the basic user of English. So these candidates should be able to write sequences of simple phrases and sentences with simple connectors. And longer text, for these candidates, they might be having some difficulties in dealing with longer text. Okay, so longer text which may have unclear expressions or inconsistencies, making reading difficult. Yeah. And band 1.0, these are basically candidates who are in band 1.0 can basically write simple isolated phrases or sentences. Sometimes the ACs produced or the sentences produced might not be quite clear to the examiner. Okay. And longer text which may have incorrect expressions and poor coherence impeding understanding. So this is band 1.0. Okay, so now let's look at the writing component. Okay, for writing component part one, it is called the guided writing. So you will see email or letter in part one. So it is basically less formal as compared to task two. So for part one, the candidates should produce at least 100 words essay. Yeah, and the language function for part one. So these are the language functions for part one. Sometimes you'll have to express thanks, apologies, reactions, and preferences, accepting or declining or rejecting invitations or offers, making requests, giving precise information, describing experiences, feelings, and events, and also providing advice, reasons, opinions, and justifications. So these language functions will vary according to different questions. Yeah. Right, for part two, the extended essay. Okay, for part two, there are three types of essays. So there are discursive essays, argumentative essay, and also problem-solving essay. And then in part two, you'll be given a stimulus, either in a form of situation, idea, or problem. And then you are expected to produce a formal piece of writing of either a discussion, a debate, or a problem-solving writing. All right, so you should also respond by providing a comprehensive discussion of the topic, providing three or more points as contents and appropriate conclusions. So if you are able to produce at least two or three relevant content points, then should be good enough for you in writing an extended essay. Yeah. So the number of words for extended essay, so you should write at least 250 words. And the language functions for extended essay is or rather discuss ideas and evaluate arguments or solutions to problems, provide advice, reasons, opinions, and justifications, and also give supporting information and relevant examples. So these are the writing component for both part one and part two. Okay, now let's look at the guided writings. The first part of the essay. For guided writing, a lot of students sometimes they feel that task one is fairly easy, so they don't want to spend too much time on task one. So they take task one for granted. Okay, so sometimes actually you have to have a specific plan for to answer task one. Yeah, so for task one, you should analyze the question, plan your response, and also present your answer. Okay, so now let's look at one by one. For analyzing the question, first of all, you should read the question thoroughly, and if necessary, you should underline the keywords. Okay, and then after you have read the question, try to understand the content of the stimulus. So the stimulus could be in a form of a letter or an email. So you should try to understand what the email or letter is about. And then try to identify the sender of the email. Remember, it is very, very important for you to get the spelling of the name correct. Okay, so please do not misspell the sender's name. And then after that, try to identify, perhaps the most important part in analyzing the question is to identify keywords and important statements, as well as the questions in the stimulus. Okay, because these important statements and questions need to be responded in your answer. So if necessary, please underline all of the important statements and questions. And on top of that, don't forget to also identify the side notes, because it is compulsory for you to answer all the side notes. Okay, right. right, now let's look at suggested answer based on the question. So we will see a step-by-step guidance on how to answer task 1. Okay. All right, so this is a sample question 1 taken from session 3, 2022. So now let's read the question together first, yeah? So you are advised to spend about 25 minutes on this task. Your classmates, Johan, was not able to attend the year-end farewell party for your class. Read the email from him asking about the party which he missed. Okay, so you'll have the sender's name and email address there from Johan, johan84 at zmail.com. The subject is how's the party, right? And then there's a salutation there. Hi Karim, sorry for not attending our class farewell party last weekend. Did you enjoy the party? So there's a side note there saying yes. And then the second paragraph, actually, I had an emergency. My family and I had to visit my grandmother who is ill. We left on Friday after school and it was a long journey. It took us almost 7 hours to reach there. My grandmother is now admitted in a hospital in Kedah. So side note number 2 is I'm sorry. Okay. Anyway, did all our classmates attend the party? How was the food? Were there any interesting activities? So there's a side note number 3 there saying explain. And last part is got to go, perhaps we can meet up next week. And then side note over here is no, I'm not, no, I'm afraid. Okay, and then take care, Karim, right soon, Johan. So this is basically the question for task 1. Okay, so what we do next is we should try to identify important statements and questions. So let us read the question again and try to identify the important statements and question. Yeah. So your classmates Johan, take note the spelling of the sender's name here, Johan. So when you write your response, when you write your essay later, this should also be the spelling of the name Johan. If you misspell by adding one letter N, for example, Johan, then it will be considered as spelling error. So it is very, very important for you to get the spelling of the name correct. Yeah. So your classmates Johan was not able to attend the year-end farewell party for your class. Okay, read the email from him asking about the party which he missed. Okay, from Johan again. So this is the sender's name. So take note. So this is the email address. How's the party is the subject. And then this is the recipient's address, Karim. Please also take note the spelling of the name Karim. Hi, Karim. Okay. Sorry for not attending our farewell. Sorry for not attending our class farewell party. So this is important statement number 1. So I wrote here IS1 last weekend. Did you enjoy the party? So this is question 1. Okay, so this is basically the question that you should answer by saying yes. Okay. So second paragraph. Actually, I had an emergency. My family and I had to visit my grandmother who is ill. So this is important statement number 2. We left on Friday after school and it was a long journey. It took us almost 7 hours to reach there. So this is important statement number 3. My grandmother is now admitted in a hospital in Kedah. So you have to respond by saying, I'm sorry. Either you say, I'm sorry that it was a long journey. You respond the important statement number 3. Or you say, I'm sorry to hear about your grandmother's condition. You answer important statement number 2. All right. Okay, next paragraph is all the questions are here. Anyway, did all our classmates attend the party? Question number 2. How was the food? Question number 3. And were there any interesting activities? Question number 4. So these 3 questions you need to explain. Okay, so remember when you see this kind of when you see this word for side notes, when you see words like explain, suggest, This is the meaty part of task one, or for side note. So you have to provide extra elaboration. You have to provide further explanation for this side note. Yeah. So you have to expect that this part should be slightly longer than the other parts. Yeah. And then, so got to go. Perhaps we can meet up next week. This is question number 5. And you have to respond to this question by saying, no, I'm afraid not, maybe. Okay. And then there's a signing off here. Take care, Karim. Write soon, Johan. Okay. So these are all the important statements and also the question that we have identified in these questions. Okay, now after you have identified all the important statements and all the questions, now it is time for you to plan your response and write your suggested answers. Okay, now let's look at the suggested answer together. All right, so the senders now becomes your name, which is Karim, and then you have to write the email address. If it is written in the response in the stimulus, then your response should also include an email address. So you can just make up any email address as long as it looks like an email address. Yeah. So karim97 at zmail.com. This is supposed to be your email address, the sender's address, because your name is Karim, so you should use the name given in the stimulus. Okay. So, and then for subject, you should write any appropriate subject based on the content. So just now we have read through the stimulus, and then we have to identify the important statements and questions. So when doing that, try to think about a suitable or appropriate subject to be written in your response. So for this one, I've written fantastic farewell party. Okay. So again, hi Johan is the salutation. So I wrote here, spelling of the recipient name must be correct. Okay, Johan. So hi Johan, how are you? I hope you are doing well there. So this is the opening remark. It is very important for you to start your response or to start your essay by writing the opening remark. Okay, it is the opening remark should be there in your response before you answer the side notes or the important statements and also the questions. So how are you and I hope you are doing well here is actually the opening remark, right? So everyone at the party was waiting for you. Anyhow, I really enjoyed the party. So this answers note number 1. It was honestly one of the most memorable events our class has ever had. So this is further explanation for this one. I really enjoyed the party. Note that this paragraph is written in past tense because we are referring to past events. Yeah. Please remember that you have to also take note of your of the tenses. So if you are referring to past events, then you should write in past tense. However, I'm really sorry to hear about your grandmother. So this answer note number 2. I'm sorry. I hope she is feeling much better now. Further explanation or extra information here. It must have been exhausting for you to travel such a long distance after school. This is a response to the important statement that we have identified just now. It must be a long journey, remember just now? So this is a response to that. It must have been exhausting for you to travel such a long distance after school. Please send her my regards and I hope she recovers very soon. This is the extra information. All right. So as for note number 3, so answering all the questions just now, well, most of our classmates attended the farewell party, although a few could not make it. The hall was beautifully decorated with colorful balloons and banners. So this is extra information that you want to provide. Remember, you have to explain, yeah? And then you explain about the scenery, about the situation at the hall, and then you also explain about the food. The food was exceptionally delectable and beautifully prepared. So delectable here means delicious. So other than using the word delicious in your essay, you might want to use this word delectable, or you can use other words like scrumptious or mouth-watering rather than writing the word delicious. Okay, we had sushi, grilled salmon, loaded nachos, and brownie cake. So you might want to give example to the foods that were served during the farewell party, and then you provide some more extra information. Everyone ate happily and even went for second servings. Okay, because you are referring to the past events, this whole paragraph is talking about the past events. So you should write in past tense form too. Okay, similar to the first paragraph just now. All right. And then regarding the activities, okay, there were also many interesting activities. So you explain about the activities. We played games, had a karaoke session, and organized a lucky draw. Our class teacher gave a touching speech that made some of us emotional. This is also written in past tense due to past events. Okay, and then the last part, the last side note, answering side note number 4, saying I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Johan. I'm afraid I will be busy next week with extra classes and family matters. Perhaps we can meet the week after. Let me know what suits you. So this is also extra information. All right. And then when you want to end your essay in task 1, please do not forget this one. Please do not forget the closing remark. So you can write something like take care and write soon as your closing remark. And then the signing off, Karim. Okay, for signing off here, it is very important for you to make sure that the signing off is the signature is readable to the examiner. Okay, make sure the examiner can read the name Karim here. So if you're not sure how to whether or not you should write you should put a signature there, please just write the name of the given recipient name here, Karim, or your name, Karim. So do not sign, because sometimes we're afraid that when you sign, when you put your signature, it might not be readable to the examiner. Okay, so the keyword here is you have to make sure that when you write the name here, it should be readable to the examiner. Okay. And then after you have finished with your response, please make sure that you read your responses again. Please make sure that you read your essay again. Make sure you use appropriate cohesive devices to ensure cohesion. Okay. All right. Now let's look at sample question number 2. So this is taken from session 1, 2023. Okay. So your friend Bob went for a walk with his parents last weekend. Read the following email from him. So the name given here is Bob, and then the context is went for a walk with his parents last weekend. Okay. So from Bobby@zmail.com, subject is join me for a walk. And then the recipient's name, your name is given, hi Salim. So you are Salim, and your friend name is Bob. Okay. How is everyone at home? So this is a question. First question. By the way, have you finished writing the essay given by Miss Tan? So this is question number 2, which you should answer by saying no. Okay. I have something exciting to tell you. During the weekend, I joined my parents for a 10,000 step walk around the park. So this is another important statement, or important statement number 1. So we have 2 questions in the first paragraph, and then we have important statement number 1 here. I never knew that walking can be a fun way to exercise. By the way, do you exercise? So this is question number 3. Okay, so you should answer this question by telling Bob whether you exercise or you don't really exercise. Okay. So basically, you have an option here whether to say yes, I have been exercising a lot, for example, or I have not been exercising that much. Yeah. Okay. Next paragraph. Last month, my dad took me to a swimming class, but I did not like it. So this is another important statement. I know I need to exercise to stay healthy, but I'm not sure what kind of exercise to do. Do you have any suggestions? Okay, so here the side note says suggest two. So you have to give two suggestions here. So you have to expect that this side note requires longer explanation. Okay. I'm planning to go for another 10,000 step walk this weekend. Would you like to join me? Another question. You should answer this question by saying sure. So you should agree to join your friend. Okay. Okay, Salim, got to go now. See you soon. Your friend Bob. So these are all important statements and also questions in the stimulus given. Okay, now let's look at the suggested answer for this question. All right, so your name should be here from Salim07 at zagmail.com. So this is the sender's address, your email address. Subject is excited to join the 10,000 step walk. So as we discussed just now, you should come up with any appropriate subject based on the content. Okay. Hi Bob. So this is a salutation. So this is the opening remark. You should write an opening remark that is not expressed in the stimulus. So if the stimulus in the stimulus it says how is everyone at home? So if you straight away answer this question, you will miss the opening remark. So please say something else that is not mentioned in the stimulus as your opening remark. So for example, you say something like, oh, I'm delighted to hear from you. So this will be your opening remark. Remember, opening remark is also very important. Okay, you should write your opening remark before you respond to all the important statements and questions in the stimulus. Okay, and then you answer side note number one. Everyone at home is doing well. Thank you for asking. No, I have not completed the essay assigned by Miss Tan. So note number one. And then there's one extra line here, the extra information. I must admit it required considerable effort and careful thought. Okay. All right. Next paragraph. Your 10,000 walk sounds both invigorating and rewarding. So invigorating here means full of energy, right? So this is a response to the statement in the stimulus that we have identified earlier. It is wonderful that you discovered such an enjoyable and accessible form of exercise. Regular walking not only strengthens the body but also refreshes the mind. Okay, so this is another line of extra information, and then this is a response to note number two. Okay. Oh, definitely. I'll try to stay active by cycling in the evenings and occasionally playing badminton as it keeps me energized and focused. So this answers the question just now. Do you exercise? So you answer by saying definitely, and then you give some examples of what you do, or maybe the activities like playing badminton and cycling. Okay, right. So here comes the meaty part for this AC. So when you are giving suggestions just now, if the question or if the side note requires you to give or to write two suggestions, it is important for you to structure your answer carefully. So I would suggest you to provide one by one. So let's look at in this paragraph. Yeah. Okay, yes, I understand that swimming can be quite challenging, particularly for beginners. Regarding your uncertainty about choosing a suitable form of exercise, you can try to explore activities that align with your interests and lifestyle. So this is an extra information. So this is the suggestion. I would suggest taking up jogging as it is both convenient and cost effective. So you give one suggestion and then you give your reason why. So note number three, suggestion one. Okay, and then you explain again. It requires minimal equipment and can be done at your own pace. So after you have given your suggestion and then you explain your suggestion, then you give your suggestion number 2. Okay. Alternatively, you might consider joining a sports club. Okay, so this is note number 3 still, but suggestion number 2. Okay. This provides a structured environment, professional guidance, and a supportive community that can keep you motivated. All right. So being part of a team also fosters discipline, teamwork, and social interaction, making exercise far more engaging and enjoyable. Okay, so if you arrange your suggestion, if you arrange your answers like this, like you give your suggestion first, and then you explain your first suggestion, and then you give another suggestion, suggestion number 2, and then you explain your second suggestion, it will be easier for examiner to identify your points. Yeah. Okay, so the last part is the last paragraph, answering side note number 4. Definitely, I would be more than happy to join you for the walk this weekend. And then you'll have another one line of extra information over here. It would be a splendid opportunity to catch up. All right, and then you'll have a closing remark here. Take care and see you soon. Your friend Salim. Okay, make sure it is readable, Salim. Okay, so if you notice this part or this paragraph is slightly longer than the previous paragraphs or the last paragraph. Okay, so you have to expect when you have to when you see notes like suggest, explain, tell, so you have to provide more explanation or more elaboration. Okay, so the second response here, the second essay, this is a better response due to good organization of ideas, sophisticated vocabulary used, and also there are varied types of sentences. Okay. Now, let's look at the important points to remember when you write task 1. First of all, it is compulsory for you to answer all the 4 notes. Do not leave one note unattended. Please answer all the 4 notes in the stimulus. And then secondly, follow the exact same format as in the stimulus. If you're not sure of how you should write, what format you should use, if it is a letter, how you should write for your response, so please follow the exact same format as in the stimulus. The formats are there in the stimulus, you just copy the format. Yeah. The same thing goes for the email address. If the email address is written in the stimulus, then that should be the format of the email address that you should follow when you write your response. Okay. And then write appropriate title or subject based on the stimulus content. Don't forget the opening remark like how are you or hope you are doing well. So anything that is not asked in the stimulus. Okay, so you should start with an opening remark and also closing remark like take care or see you. So identify the appropriate tone, whether it is formal or maybe slightly formal or maybe less formal. So sometimes if you see stimulus in the form of a formal letter, for example, then it should be the language or the tone should be slightly formal. Okay, but if you are receiving if the stimulus is in form of an email from maybe email from your friend, email from your cousin, so it is maybe slightly less formal. If it is an email from your teacher or any formal authorities, then it will be slightly formal. Okay, and then the spelling of the names mentioned must also be correct as we discussed just now. And one more thing I forgot to insert in this slide is the timing. Make sure you spend 25 minutes on task 1. Do not spend more than 25 minutes for task 1. This happens a lot for good candidates because they have good language ability, so they tend to write more in task 1, and then they ended up spend about 45 minutes or 40 minutes in task 1 and leave about 30 minutes for task 2. So we don't want to do that. Please timing is very important. Do not exceed 25 minutes plus the 5 minutes for you to check for your grammar errors. Yeah. Okay. So that's it for task 1. Okay. Now let's look at the extended essay. Okay, for extended essay, we are going to look at discursive essays, argumentative essays, and also problem solution essays. So there are 3 types of essays: discursive, argumentative essay, and also problem solution. Right, so for discursive essay, it discusses a particular topic in detail, and it gives 2 contrasting perspectives, either advantages or disadvantages of certain topic, for and against, benefits and drawbacks. Okay, and then concludes with an unbiased arguments. So you should provide a neutral stand, because the aim is to discuss, not to persuade, right? So for discursive essay. Right. For argumentative essay, the aim is to persuade the target reader to agree with the writer's stand. So that's why you must, in argumentative essay, you must take a stand. It is compulsory for you to have a stand. Whether you agree or disagree, or partly agree or partly disagree, that depends on whether you want to write, whether you want to agree or disagree with the motion or with the statement given. Okay, so that's why it is quite challenging as compared to discursive essay, because you need to persuade readers to agree with your opinion. So it needs you to use a very strong persuasive language. Yeah, and then you have to conclude in favor of one side. All right, for problem solution essay, it discusses the problems and provides the solution. So this is actually a straightforward essay. You discuss the problem and then you provide the solution. And then you have to give evidence to support the writers, to support your proposed solution. Okay. So this is what we will be looking at when we discuss extended essay. Understanding the task. So deciding the types of essay, right? Whether we want to write discursive essay, argumentative, or problem solution. And then we are going to look at identifying important keywords and key phrases. And then last part in understanding the task is to read your essay thoroughly. And then when planning your answers, you should list possible main ideas and also organization of ideas. And then at the end of it, writing out the essay. Okay, now let's look at deciding the types of essay. So the question, when you see the question, actually the question can be divided into 3 different parts or 3 different segments. So when deciding the types of essay to write, we usually focus on the task in part 3. Now let's look at the sample question here. You are advised to spend about 50 minutes on this task. During the Teachers' Day celebration at your school, an invited speaker made the following statement in his speech. So this is part 1, the context, and then you'll have the statement. Part 2, traditional face-to-face classroom promotes better learning environment. And then you'll have part 3, the task. Your teacher asks you and your classmates to write an essay expressing your opinion on the statement. So when we want to decide the types of essay to write, we should focus on part 3 here. Okay, the task. Your teacher asks you and your classmates to write an essay expressing your opinion on the statement. So when you see expressions such as expressing your opinion or expressing your views or stating your views, so you can actually decide either to write a discursive essay or an argumentative essay, depending on your language ability. If you feel that you have better language ability and you want to write argumentative essay, then you may proceed with an argumentative essay. If you feel that you want to be a bit more relaxed and casual, then you should write a discursive essay where you give 2 sides of the two sides, advantages and disadvantages, or for and against. Yeah. Okay. sometimes you will see expressions, sometimes you will see expressions like, do you agree? Okay, so if you see expressions like do you agree, then it is actually a clear indicator that you should write an argumentative essay. It is a clear indicator that you should take a stand. Okay, but if you see expressions like this, expressing your opinion, stating your views, you can actually choose either to write discursive or argumentative essay. Okay, now let's look at sample question number 2. Write an essay on the possible solution to overcome procrastination among school students. Sometimes you will see expressions like write an essay suggesting ways to deal with, write an essay recommending ways to, or write an essay providing suggestions to, write an essay expressing your suggestions to, what are the effects of, then the problem, how can this problem be addressed. So these are a clear indicator that you should write a problem solution essay. So take note when you want to decide on the types of essay to write, please take note that you should focus on this part 3. Focus on the task. Okay, so if it says possible solution, then it is a problem solution essay. All right. So what you need to do for each essay? For discursive essay, you should discuss the topic in detail, and then you should give 2 contrasting perspectives, for and against, or advantages and disadvantages, or benefits and drawbacks, and then you should conclude with an unbiased argument, providing a neutral stand. So the keyword here is balance. So a discursive essay should be balanced, right? As for argumentative essay, you should decide on a clear stand, whether agree or disagree with the statement, and then you persuade the readers to agree with the stand. So basically, you have to use persuasive language to persuade readers to agree with the stand, and then you conclude in favor of one side. So you need to have a clear stand. So the keyword here for argumentative essay is persuade and stand. Okay. And as for problem solution essay, it's a straightforward essay. You have to discuss the problem, the cause or current state, and then you provide sensible solution to the problem by providing supporting evidences. Okay. All right. Now let's look at how we should analyze the keywords. Okay, after you have decided on the types of essay to write, it is the time for you to analyze the keywords. So when analyzing the keywords, we will focus on the statement in part 2. So why do we need to analyze the keywords? Because it helps candidates, especially with lower language ability, to understand the statement better. Because it is very, very important for you to understand the statement. If you understand the statement given, then you'll be able to provide appropriate response. If you find it difficult, or if you are struggling in understanding the statement, it is quite difficult for you to provide an appropriate response, yeah, an appropriate AC. Okay, now let's look at the second part here, the statement. Traditional face-to-face classroom promotes better learning environment. So I have identified for you the keywords in the statement. So traditional, face-to-face classroom, and better learning environment. Okay, so after you have identified the keywords, you have to break down the keywords. So once identified, ask yourself, what do you understand from the keywords? Are there any synonyms that you know? For example, traditional. So some candidates, you might associate the word traditional with conventional or existing as part of tradition, something that is done in a specific way for many years. Okay, so so whatever you understand from the word traditional, and then face-to-face classroom. Okay, what do I understand from this phrase? from these keywords. Oh, face-to-face classroom, or see each other faces, one-to-one interaction, a better learning environment, comfortable, what else? Oh, better learning situation, effective teaching and learning process. So try to identify, try to come up with any other synonyms that you know to associate with the keywords. All right. After you have decided on the types of essay to write and you identify all the keywords, you may now decide on your stand. So if you are doing an argumentative essay, remember it is important for you to write your stand, to come up with your stand. So a very quick tip here, choose a stand that is easier to explain or elaborate. So don't choose what you like. You should choose what is easier for you to explain. Maybe you might not like the stand because you think the other way, but in a way, the stand that you don't like actually provides more information. So choose something that is easier for you to explain in your essay. Okay, and then you brainstorm as many main points as you can based on your stand, and then you choose 3 points. You think that these 3 points is the best. These 3 points allows you to elaborate more. You have more idea to elaborate on these 3 points. Then you may choose these 3 points to write in your essay. And then try to list down as many words as you can related to the 3 main points that you have chosen. Okay. So now let's look at the point. Say, for example, you have come up with a list of maybe 5 or 6 points, and then you have decided on these 3 main points. Yeah. So traditional face-to-face classroom promotes better learning environment. So your stand here, you agree that traditional face-to-face classroom promotes better learning environment. So you have come up with a list of points, and then you have chosen these 3 points. So point number 1 is immediate teacher feedback. Point number 2, better social interaction. And point number 3 is more focused learning environment. So try to come up with any related vocabulary for every single point that you have chosen. Okay, for example, for point number 1 is instant feedback or real-time correction, direct guidance, active engagement, error correction, two-way communication. And for point number 2, better social interaction, these are the related vocabulary that you can think of: face-to-face communication, peer interaction, group discussion, collaborative learning, teamwork skills. And point number 3, more focused learning environment. So classroom management, reduce distractions, academic focus, clear instructions, and time management. Okay, so it doesn't matter how many words that you are able to find related to the point, but as long as you can find some vocabulary or some words to relate to the points that you have chosen, then that's fair enough. Yeah. All right. Now let's look at how to write an introduction. Remember this formula, the gist formula. Okay, so a good introduction must contain gist. So what is gist? So gist is general information. GI is general information. S is stand for argumentative essay, and TS is thesis statement. So a good introduction must contain these 3 important elements: general information, stand, and also thesis statement. So the gist, yeah. So start with the general information about the topic, followed by a clear stand and a thesis statement. Okay, these 3 elements should be there in your introduction. Now let's look at one by one. What is general information? So general information or background knowledge, it provides background knowledge of the topic. It can be current situation or situation happened in the past, or any information that relates to the topic of discussion. Okay. For candidates with better language ability, you may provide a hook before providing the general information. So what is a hook? Hook is actually an attention grabber. So it is useful in attracting the reader's attention. It can be in many forms. For example, it can be in a form of definition, or quotation, or surprising fact, or even rhetorical question. But if you feel that you are not confident to write a hook, please just write a normal general information, what you know about the topic, and then that will be your general information. Okay, but remember, your general information must follow your stand. Okay, if your stand is agree, then your general information should lead towards your stand, right? And vice versa. Now let's look at some examples of hooks. Okay, for this question, for this statement, traditional face-to-face classroom promotes better learning environment. So you may provide a definition of traditional face-to-face classroom. For example, this one. A traditional face-to-face classroom refers to a learning environment where teachers and students interact physically in the same space. So you may come up with the definition that you know. A traditional face-to-face classroom. So you start off with a definition. All right, or maybe you want to write a surprising fact. If you happen to read it somewhere before you answer the question, and then you want to write that fact into your introduction, make it as a hook, then you can write. For example, this one. Did you know that despite the rapid growth of online learning platforms, many students still achieve better academic performance in traditional face-to-face classrooms? All right, so this is a fact here. Or even if you want to write a rhetorical question. What is a rhetorical question? A rhetorical question is a question that is asked in order to make a point rather than to get an answer. So it is questions that does not require an answer. Okay, so it is a question that you write to make a point for what you are going to write in the next sentence. For example, is online learning really capable of creating the same level of focus and discipline as a traditional classroom? And then you may continue with your own idea. Okay, so these are some examples of hooks that you can write. Now let's look at the example of a background knowledge. A traditional face-to-face classroom is a learning setting where students and teachers interact physically in the same environment. So you start off with a hook here using definition, and then you further elaborate, okay, the background knowledge. Lessons are conducted in real time, allowing direct communication, classroom discussions, and immediate feedback. This structured environment encourages discipline, active participation, and meaningful social interaction among students. So this is the background knowledge. And this is another example of background knowledge where you give general information about modern education. Okay, so in recent years, education has evolved rapidly due to technological advancements. Online learning platforms and virtual classrooms have become increasingly popular, offering students flexibility and convenience. So this is a general information about modern knowledge. Okay, but because you agree that face-to-face classrooms is actually promotes better learning environment, you should provide a transition sentence like this before you write your stand. Okay, so however, despite these modern developments, traditional face-to-face classrooms still provide a better learning environment for students. So this is a transition sentence. So remember, if the general info is against the topic of discussion, provide a transition sentence before you write your stand. Okay. And then after that, you can write your stand. After you have written your general information just now, and then you can write your stand. So this is example of stand. If you agree, you'll say something like, therefore, I strongly agree that traditional face-to-face classroom promotes better learning environment. Or if you disagree, you'll say something like, so, I strongly disagree that traditional face-to-face classroom promotes better learning environment. So use transition words like therefore or thus to connect your general info and the stand. Okay, here I I wrote therefore, and here I wrote so. Okay. Okay, now let's look at how we can write a thesis statement. Okay, so just now, let's look at the point again. So just now, we have decided that these 3 points will be the point that we are going to write in our AC. Point 1, immediate teacher feedback. Point 2, better social interaction. And point 3, more focused learning environment. Okay, now this is the first example, the classic way of writing thesis statement. So you will start off with this phrase. This essay will discuss how traditional face-to-face classrooms promote a better learning environment through, so you have a preposition here, through immediate teacher feedback, your point number 1, better social interaction, your point number 2, and more focused learning environment, point number 3. So your thesis statement should include your 3 main points. So when the examiner read your thesis statement, they know, okay, so these 3 points are going to be discussed in the next paragraph. Okay. Or you can refer to this example number 2. For those who have better language ability, you can rephrase the topic using your own words and combine the points. For example, traditional classroom settings offer a more effective learning experience. Okay, so you rephrase according to your own sentence, as they enabled immediate teacher feedback, foster meaningful social interaction, and ensure a more focused learning environment. Note that you should choose a suitable verb for each main point. For example, the first main point just now is immediate teacher feedback, so you should provide a suitable verb for this one. For example, enable immediate teacher feedback, foster meaningful social interaction, ensure a more focused learning environment. So it needs better language knowledge here. So if you feel that you have better language ability, you want to rephrase, then you may do so. All right. Now let's look at a complete introduction. In recent years, education has evolved rapidly due to technological advancements. Online learning platforms and virtual classrooms have become increasingly popular, offering students flexibility and convenience. So this is the general information about modern education. And then you'll have the transition sentence. However, despite these modern developments, traditional face-to-face classrooms still provide a better learning environment for students. And then you'll have your stand here. Therefore, I strongly agree that traditional face-to-face classroom promotes better learning environment. And then you'll have the thesis statement. This essay will discuss how traditional face-to-face classrooms promotes a better learning environment through immediate teacher feedback, better social interaction, and a more focused learning environment. So this is how a complete introduction should look like. It comprises these 3 elements: the gist just now, general information, the stand, and also the thesis statement. Okay, clear? So now let's look at the other ways of saying, because a lot of average candidates, they like to write this one nowadays or in the era of globalization. So instead of writing these uh, words of phrase nowadays or in the era of globalization, you can also write in other forms, like for example, in present day society or in today's modern world, in an increasingly globalized world, or in this age of global connectivity, in today's increasingly interconnected world. So you might want to memorize some of these expressions because these expressions might be useful for you to write in your essay. Okay, now let's look at how do we write a body paragraph. Just now, for introduction, you remember the gist. For body paragraph, please remember 3. Okay, the 3. So a good body paragraph should contain the 3. So what are the 3s? What is 3? So TR stands for topic sentence. Sorry, T stands for topic sentence. RE stands for reason or elaboration. And the last E stands for example. So your body paragraph, each of the body paragraph should contain topic sentence, reason or elaboration, and example. Okay, now let's look at one by one. Topic sentence. What is a topic sentence? A topic sentence is a general overview of what we want to discuss in the paragraph. A topic sentence contains one main idea mentioned in thesis statement. A good topic sentence should be direct, precise, and concise. So topic sentence is actually a general overview of what we are going to discuss in the paragraph, and then it contains one main idea mentioned in the thesis statement, and also it should be direct, precise, and concise. Okay. For example, let's look at the example down there. To begin with, one of the main reasons traditional face-to-face classrooms promote a better learning environment is that they provide immediate teacher feedback. Okay, so this will be your topic sentence. Direct, precise, concise, and then it consists of one main idea, provide immediate teacher feedback, and this is actually the general overview of what you are going to discuss in this paragraph. And also don't forget to add sequence connector like firstly or to start or first and foremost to begin with. Okay. And then for reason and elaboration. So this is actually an expansion of ideas from your topic sentence. So a lot of students, they are having some difficulties in writing the elaboration, what to write for elaboration. So don't worry, try to use the WH questions of what, when, how, why, where to provide more ideas, to provide more elaboration, okay, to elaborate. So use appropriate cohesive devices when needed. So for example, in a physical classroom, students can ask questions directly and receive instant clarification, thus preventing misunderstandings from developing further. So this is actually how face-to-face classroom provide better learning environment. Okay, students can ask questions directly and then receive instant clarification. And then another sentence, another line, moreover, teachers are able to observe students' facial expressions and body language, which helps them identify confusion and adjust their explanations accordingly. So who are the people involved? So teachers able to observe students' facial expressions. So basically you ask yourself the WH question, how face-to-face classroom, who are the people involved, okay. And then don't forget the cohesive devices. Thus moreover here. Okay, now let's look at providing relevant examples. So if you are not sure on how to provide examples, try to relate to your personal experience if there is any, or otherwise you may create a situation as an example. For example, this one. Okay. For example, if a student does not understand how to solve a simple equation, the teacher can immediately explain the steps again and show another similar questions on the board. As a result, the student can correct their mistake on the spot and understand the concept clearly. So this is a situation which you create as an example. Okay, so that's why you have the word if here. So if a student does not understand blah blah blah, so you create a situation just for the sake of providing an example here. So another ways of saying for example, other than saying for example, you can say something like for instance, to illustrate, or as an exemplification. Okay, so this is how a complete body paragraph with topic, sentence, reasons, and elaboration and example look like. Okay, to begin with, one of the main reasons traditional face-to-face classroom promotes better learning environment is that they provide immediate teacher feedback. So this is a topic sentence. In a physical classroom, students can ask questions directly and receive instant clarification, thus preventing misunderstandings from developing further. Moreover, teachers are able to observe students' facial expressions and body language, which helps them identify confusion and adjust their explanations accordingly. Okay, and then the example. For example, if a student does not understand how to solve a simple equation, the teacher can immediately explain the steps again and show another similar questions on the board. So this is a situation that is made in the form of an example. And as a result, the student can correct their mistake on the spot and understand the concept clearly. Okay, so this should also be the same for paragraph for the next paragraph for point number 2 and point number 3. All right. Maybe some maybe some candidates feel that, oh, this is too high for me. I cannot produce this kind of language. My language ability is not up to this level. So for candidates with lower language ability, don't worry. You just have to be you have to avoid simple grammar errors and avoid being too ambitious. So don't be too ambitious, because your main mission is to avoid simple grammar errors. Okay, and then you should try to write more shorter sentences. Okay, this is the simplified version, a paragraph with shorter sentences. Maybe for students who feel that the previous paragraph just now, the paragraph that we discussed just now is a bit challenging, so you might want to try to write this kind of produce this kind of sentences. Okay, to begin with, one of the main reasons traditional face-to-face classrooms promote a better learning environment is that they provide immediate teacher feedback. So this is the topic sentence, the same topic sentence. In a physical classroom, students can ask questions and receive answers immediately from their teachers. Okay, short sentence. Not only that, teachers can also observe students' facial expressions and body language. Full stop. This helps them identify those who are confused. Full stop. They can then explain the lesson again in a clearer and simpler way. Full stop. So 3 to 4 short sentences, but you try to minimize the grammar error. So okay, and then the reason and elaboration. For example, if a student cannot solve a simple equation, the teacher can demonstrate the steps again on the board. So simpler version of example, anything that you feel comfortable with the language, so you may try to write in your own words. Yeah. Okay, now let's look at the next paragraph. So we are still following the same format, yeah, the 3: topic, sentence, elaboration, and also example. Secondly, traditional face-to-face classroom encourage better learning, better social interaction among students. In a physical classroom, students communicate directly with their teachers and classmates during lessons, discussions, and group activities. This direct interaction helps them express their ideas more confidently and improve their speaking skills. In addition, students learn to listen to different opinions and respect others' views. So this is the reason and elaboration. And then the example here, you start with, just now you use for example. So for the second paragraph, for the second point, you use to illustrate. So to illustrate, during a group discussion, students can share ideas, respond immediately, and work together to complete a task. As a result, they develop important communication and teamwork skills that are essential for both academic success and future careers. Okay. And then the last point before we do the conclusion. So lastly, traditional face-to-face classroom create a more focused learning environment. So this is the topic sentence. In a physical classroom, students are less likely to be distracted by social media, online games, or other digital interruptions. The presence of a teacher also encourages students to stay attentive and follow the lesson carefully. Furthermore, classroom rules and structured schedules help students manage their time and concentrate on their tasks. So this is the reason and elaboration. And then for the third point, other than the phrase for example and to illustrate, you can use this one as an exemplification. Okay. During a lesson, students are expected to listen, take notes, and participate actively instead of browsing unrelated websites. As a result, they are able to focus better and understand the lesson more effectively. So this is the example. All right. Now here comes the conclusion. So when what should we do, or what should we consider when you want to write a conclusion? So just now, for introduction, the gist, the body paragraph, the three. As for conclusion, remember this. Remember this one. 3R1C. Okay. So what is 3R and 1C? So restate the topic of discussions, because you want to remind the reader of the topic discussed, and then you rephrase the thesis statement by summarizing the point, and then you rephrase to make it sound fresh, and then you reiterate the stand, so you say clearly again your position, whether you agree or you disagree with the statement. And then 1C is closing sentence. So for closing sentence, it can be in a form of you want to call for action, or it can be in a form of warning, or you might want to give hope. Yeah. All right. Now let's look at the sample paragraph for conclusion. Okay, in conclusion, this essay has discussed whether traditional face-to-face classroom promote a better learning environment. So this is the topic of discussion. It has shown that physical classroom offer immediate teacher feedback, encourage better social interaction, and create a more focused atmosphere for learning. So this is a rephrased version of the thesis statement. So you state again your thesis statement. These advantages clearly prove that traditional classroom settings are more effective compared to other learning methods. Therefore, it is evident that face-to-face learning remains the best option for students' academic development. So you reiterate again your stand, and then you end your conclusion by giving one hope. Okay, it is hope that educational institutions will continue to strengthen and prioritize traditional classroom learning for the benefit of future generations. So this is what 3R1C look like. Okay, your closing sentence, you end with a hope. All right. So to sum up, decide the type of essay you want to write, and then identify the keywords in the statement, decide on your stand, brainstorm main points, and then decide on the three main points to write. You may list as many related vocabulary items as you can, and then you write your response according to the introduction, according to gist, 3, the body paragraph, and 3R1C, the conclusion. Okay, these are some of the useful cohesive devices that you can use when you want to introduce your ideas. You may say something like, firstly, or to begin with, first and foremost, in the first place. When you want to add more ideas, you can say something like, furthermore, moreover, in addition, additionally, besides that. When you want to give examples, you can say something like, for example, for instance, such as, to illustrate, as an exemplification. Okay. When you want to show cause and effect, so you can write therefore, as a result, consequently, thus, or this leads to. When showing contrast, you can write something like however, on the other hand, nevertheless, in contrast, although. And when you want to conclude your essay, you can write something like in conclusion, to conclude, in summary, or to sum up. All right, so that would be the end of my sharing session for today. Hopefully, this will provide some beneficial information for all the Muet candidates out there. So remember, great writing begins with practice. So write, practice, improve, repeat. So till we meet again, thank you very much to all the viewers out there for lending me your ears. Hopefully, you can score good marks in your, not only in your writing papers, but also in other 3 papers. Yeah. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.